The nurse screamed. The room was empty. The IV still hung from the pole, dripping. On the bed, there was only a folded Bulls jersey, a single Jordan sneaker, and a handwritten note. "I'm not dying here. Tell Mike I'll wait on the court." Michael Jordan read the note 3 hours later, gripping the paper so hard it tore. 12-year-old Benny Walker had vanished. Terminal leukemia. No chance of survival, and now he was gone. This wasn't just a visit anymore. This was a rescue. But let's take the story from the beginning. The jazz band played something smooth and forgettable. Waiters glided by with champagne flutes, their trays trembling under the weight of small talk and big egos. Michael Jordan stood near a velvet rope, nodding politely as another tech billionaire thanked him for being such an inspiration. He smiled out of habit, not interest. The room was lit like a magazine, spread clean, rich and hollow. He was ready to leave. That's when he saw her. A woman in scrubs. Real scrubs. Not a cocktail dress or heels in sight. Out of place and walking fast. Eyes locked on him like a fast break. Security stepped in, but Michael raised a hand. "She's all right." The nurse stopped short in front of him, chest heaving from the effort. Her hair was pulled back. Her badge read, St. Jude's. She didn't apologize for the interruption. She just reached into her bag, hands trembling, and pulled out a folded, crumpled piece of paper. "I had to come. They told me you were speaking tonight. I flew out right after my shift." Michael took the paper, carefully unfolding it. It was a drawing marker and crayon, smudged with fingerprints and hope. A little boy with no hair holding a basketball bigger than his body. The jersey number, 23. The face round, unfinished but smiling. At the bottom, in shaky handwriting, "To Michael Jordan, from your biggest fan, Benny Walker." The nurse swallowed hard. "He's 12, terminal, leukemia, last stage, no more chemo. We asked him what he wanted more than anything," he said. "To meet you. Not a celebrity visit. Not a signed jersey. He wants to look you in the eye and say thank you." Michael stared at the drawing. Something caught in his throat. The nurse handed him a second paper, this one a letter. A real one, written in pencil. Words pressed deep into the lines like the boy had been trying to carve them into the page. "If I could just meet you once," it read, "I think I'd be okay with leaving." Michael folded the letter slowly. He didn't look at the nurse, just reached for his phone. "Tell me where," he said, "and I'll be there." The nurse blinked, caught off guard. "St. Jude's, Memphis, room 408. Michael nodded. "Book me a flight," he said to his assistant, who was already typing. "Tonight." The nurse exhaled for the first time. "Thank you," she whispered. Michael looked down at the drawing again. "Don't thank me yet," he said quietly. "We're just getting started." He excused himself from the gala without another word, leaving behind champagne, cameras, and congratulatory speeches. That night, his jet took off under a starless sky, cutting through clouds with purpose. Somewhere in Memphis, a dying boy was dreaming of a hero. What he didn't know was that his hero had just canceled the rest of his life to walk straight into his. The sliding doors hissed open, and Michael stepped inside. The smell of antiseptic and lemon-scented floor wax hitting him like a memory he never lived. St. Jude's wasn't just a hospital, it was a battlefield dressed in murals and warm light, a place where hope had to be stronger than the medicine. Nurses froze, phones dropped. A janitor's mop clattered to the tile as heads turned and gasps filled the hallway like whispers of a miracle. Word spread faster than a fast break. Michael Jordan was here. For real, not a foundation rep. Not a press shoot. Him. He didn't look at anyone as he moved, not out of arrogance, but focus. He followed the nurse from the Gallagher, name was Kendra. He'd learned on the plane down the hall, past smiling photos and oxygen tanks, past waiting parents pretending to believe in good news. The door was blue. 408. A paper star hung from it, drawn in thick red marker. Benny's room, no frown zone. Kendra opened the door quietly. Michael stepped inside. The boy was even smaller than he expected. 12 years old, but barely filling half the bed. IV tubes like tangled shoelaces. Skin paper thin, and nearly translucent. The machines beeped gently around him like a metronome, marking the final beats of a song that shouldn't be ending. Benny didn't scream, didn't speak, just stared. Wide, brown eyes, dry lips, barely breathing. Michael stepped closer, each step heavy, like the air thickened with meaning. He reached the bedside and lowered himself into the chair, not with grace, but reverence. Like he was kneeling at center court again, waiting for the game to begin. "I heard you wanted to meet a basketball player," he said, his voice low, steady. "Sorry, kid. I brought a legend instead." Benny's lips twitched. Not a smile, just the idea of one. His hand, skeletal and shaking, lifted an inch off the blanket. Michael reached out, took it gently in both of his. The boy's fingers were cold, so cold. "Is it really you?" Benny whispered, barely audible. Michael nodded. "It's really me. I thought maybe I'd be too late." "You're not." Tears welled up in Kendra's eyes behind them, but she stepped back, giving them the room, the silence, the space to exist in a moment too big for anyone else. "You want to know something?" Michael asked. Benny nodded, eyelids fluttering. "I used to think championships were the biggest thing in the world, but I was wrong. The biggest thing in the world is sitting right in front of me, fighting harder than I ever did on any court." Benny blinked slowly. A tear escaped from the corner of his eye. "I watched all your tapes," he murmured, "even the one where you missed." Michael chuckled. "I've missed a lot more than one." "Yeah, but you kept shooting." "I still do," Michael said. "And today, I came to pass you the ball." For the first time, Benny smiled. Michael leaned back in the chair, eyebrows raised. That answer short, ragged, spoken through a failing body, hit him harder than any playoff buzzer ever had. He studied the kid. Pale skin, bones where muscles should have been, eyes too tired for 12. But the way Benny said it, like he meant it more than anything he'd ever said in his life. "Because I'm not done fighting," it wasn't just words. It was a declaration. Michael nodded slowly. "All right then," he said, voice like gravel warmed by sunlight. "One move." Benny tried to sit up, but his arms trembled too much. Michael stood and adjusted the bed with practiced hands, raising the back until Benny could see straight ahead. The IV bags swayed, the monitor beeped. But now there was something else in the room. A hum, a charge, like game night in Chicago. Michael reached into his duffel. Not a gift bag, no fancy wrapping, just a well-worn basketball. The leather faded, seems familiar. It wasn't a prop. It was one of his practice balls. The kind he never gave away. Until now. "This one's called the fadeaway," Michael said. He held the ball up, rotated it slow in his hand like it was made of glass. "It's the shot I made when I didn't know what else to do, when I couldn't drive past them, when the clock was almost out." Benny's eyes followed every motion like a student studying scripture. Michael mimicked the movement in place. Turn, shoulder dip, jump back, wrist snap. Even without a hoop, it was beautiful. Controlled. Deadly. He turned back to Benny, crouched low. "Your legs might not do it right now," he said, "but your mind can. You picture it. Every detail. You practice it there first. That's where everything starts anyway." Benny nodded faintly. He reached out his frail hand. Michael placed the ball in it, holding it steady so it wouldn't drop. Together they mimed the motion. Benny's fingers barely curled around the leather. His hand twitched, and the ball slipped. Michael caught it instantly. "No sweat," he said. "Try again." They did, and again, and again, until Benny's breath came, in shallow pants and sweat glazed his forehead. Michael could see the effort was costing him, but the kid wouldn't stop. Not yet. One last try. Michael guided the motion gently, his own hand beneath Benny's elbow. Fade. Pull. Release. Invisible basket. Perfect swish. Benny's head hit the pillow. He exhaled. Exhausted. Triumphant. Michael placed the ball at the foot of the bed and sat back down. "You just made your first shot," he said. Benny's lips curved. "Bet you can't block that." Michael smiled, wide and real. "You'd be surprised." A silence settled between them, full and warm. Then Benny whispered, "Will you come back tomorrow?" Michael nodded. "I'll be here. We're not done fighting either." The beeping monitor kept time like a drumbeat. The fight had begun. The atrium was empty when Michael stepped in that night, just echoing silence and the ghost of visiting hours. Pale lights spilled from overhead windows. Potted plants, the kind that never quite die but never really live either, lined the walls. It wasn't a court, not yet, but he saw it. He saw the paint on the floor, the free throw line, the arc, the echo of bouncing leather and rubber soles. He made a call, then another, then 20 more. By 2 a.m., the freight elevator opened with a mechanical groan, and the first crate rolled in. Trainers from Charlotte, mats shipped from a youth league in Chicago, a collapsible hoop used at celebrity camps, floor panels laid carefully, quietly. A sound team fixed the acoustics. A contractor reinforced the window glass just in case. Michael supervised it all. Sleeves rolled, phone never leaving his hand. It wasn't for cameras. No press, no social media. This was for one boy. By dawn, the atrium had changed. Nurses stopped and stared. Doctors with bloodshot eyes paused their rounds just to take it in. A basketball court. Not perfect, but real. Full size, full heart. Benny was wheeled in mid-morning, wrapped in a hospital blanket like it was a cape. His eyes widened. The breath left his lungs in a soundless gasp. "For you," Michael said. Benny blinked at the court, then up at him. "Is this real?" Michael nodded. "As real as it gets." They fitted Benny with padded shoes, custom, Velcro, the lightest kind. A nurse adjusted the catheter line. A therapist checked his brace. Michael crouched beside him, ball in hand. "You ready?" he asked. Benny nodded, but his hand shook. "Then let's do this." They rolled him to the edge of the key. Michael guided him to his feet, slow, careful, braced with straps and hands. The whole hospital seemed to hold its breath. Benny stood, swaying like a tree in wind. Michael put the ball in his hand. "Same move," he said softly. "Fade away." Benny tried, turned, legs buckled. He dropped. Gasp. Nurses moved forward. Michael held them off. "He's okay," he said. "He's okay." Benny looked up, embarrassed. "I messed it up." Michael offered his hand. "We don't stay down." The second time, he made it halfway through the motion before collapsing again. Tears filled his eyes, not from pain but frustration. He hit the mat and punched it weakly. Michael knelt beside him. "Hey!" Benny didn't look up. "Falling is part of the shot," Michael whispered. "Watch the tapes. I fall all the damn time." Silence. Third try. Benny stood again, wobbling. Michael handed him the ball. No pressure. Just the greatest fadeaway in NBA history. This time, Benny turned, leaned, released. The ball arced, hit backboard, dropped in. Swish. The atrium exploded. Nurses cried. A therapist sobbed. A janitor dropped his mop and whispered, "Oh my God." Michael didn't move. Just stood there. Silent. Shaking. The fadeaway had barely settled through the net when the coughing started. Sharp, wet, relentless. Benny doubled over before the ball even touched the ground. A nurse rushed forward with a suction tube, and Michael backed away just enough to let them work. The court vanished in that moment. All that effort, the miracle shot, it collapsed under the weight of what came next. His oxygen dropped. His blood pressure plummeted. The machines screamed as they wheeled him back to the ICU. Michael followed. He didn't speak, didn't cry, just moved, one foot in front of the other, jaw locked tight. By the time Benny was stabilized, the room had changed. No more laughter, no more sneakers squeaking against padded floors. Just beeping, monitors, and white walls pressing in like time itself had grown impatient. A doctor stepped out of the shadows, clipboard in hand, voice practiced in the art of quiet devastation. "His kidneys are failing," she said. "We've started dialysis, but this may be it." Michael nodded, slow, expressionless. "I'll stay," he said. He pulled the chair to Benny's bedside and lowered himself into it like a man preparing for a long flight. Outside, the nurses dimmed the lights and left a warm blanket folded at the door. Michael didn't move. The room was quiet, save for the constant hum of machines keeping a boy tethered to life. Around midnight, Benny stirred. "Mike?" he whispered. Michael leaned forward. "Right here." Did I make it?" Michael smiled softly. "You made it, kid." "I don't remember it." Michael reached into his bag and pulled out the game ball, still warm from earlier. "That shot? That was yours. Nothing but net." Benny chuckled weakly and coughed again. It rattled in his chest. "Guess I'm benched again." Michael chuckled once. "Not benched, just halftime." They sat like that, time ticking like a shot clock running down. Michael began to talk, not to fill the silence, but to honor it. He told Benny about his sophomore year, about the varsity cuts, about how he cried in the locker room, thinking it was over. He told him about the mornings in the gym before sunrise, when nobody believed in him except a janitor with a key and kind eyes. He told him about failing, again and again, and coming back every single time. Benny's eyelids fluttered. His hand moved slightly, reaching for the ball on his lap. "You came back?" he whispered. Michael nodded. "Then I came back." Benny smiled, barely. "So will you." The monitors hummed. The IV dripped. Outside, the world turned without them. But inside room 408, one man sat beside one boy, passing on everything that mattered. Not fame, not fortune. Just the truth that comebacks are real. And sometimes they don't happen on a court. Sometimes they happen right when the world says you're finished, and all you have left is belief. The doctors called it a stabilization. Michael called it a crack in the door, just wide enough to wedge a fist through. Benny's vitals held steady through the night. His oxygen climbed. The swelling in his chest eased. They took him off the ventilator for an hour just to see what he'd do. He whispered, smiled, slept, and for the first time in 3 days, Michael unclenched his jaw. But it wasn't enough. He cornered the chief of medicine the next morning, voice low, sharp, controlled. "He's 12, Michael said. 12. You've done all you can with what you have. Now, let me do what I can." The chief shook his head. "Mr. Jordan, we've already pushed every protocol. Experimental drugs are not." Michael didn't blink. "I'm not asking for permission. I'm offering resources. We'd need an international consult, logistics, legal waivers, insurance." "Forget insurance," Michael snapped. "I'll pay every cent out of pocket. You get the clearance, I'll get the doctor." By noon, his jet was on standby. By 3, he was on a video call with Dr. Farr. Emil Weber, the leading pediatric oncologist in Zurich. The kind of man who had Nobel nominations and still answered his own phone. Michael didn't beg. He didn't sell. He just showed him Benny's case file. The scans, the decline, the fight. When Dr. Weber saw the court phototh, one of Benny mid-fadeaway, IV lines tangled like spider silk around his leg, she agreed without hesitation. "That child is still choosing to live," he said. "That's all I need to see." The next hurdle was the hospital board. They met behind closed doors, discussed liability, reputation, FDA limitations, legal ramifications. Michael sat outside, pacing like it was Game 7. At one point, he pulled out his phone and started typing a statement for the press. If they said no, he was going live. No filter, no PR team. When the board returned, their faces were pale, tight. But the chair spoke first. "You can proceed, but it's your name on every page." Michael didn't hesitate. It always has been. Dr. Weber landed the next morning. No press, no fanfare. Just a leather satchel, a quiet nod, and eyes like steel. For the next 48 hours, Benny was moved to a private suite. The treatment began: custom drug therapy, aggressive hydration, molecular inhibitors, risky, unproven, but not reckless. Calculated hope. Michael sat in the corner again, watching, waiting, not like a celebrity, like a father. He brought books, a chess set, cards. He told stories about Dennis Rodman showing up to practice in pajamas, about Phil Jackson burning sage in the locker room. Benny was too weak to laugh, but his eyes smiled. The worst night came with a fever spike. 104. Michael stood by the bed with an ice towel in one hand and Benny's in the other, whispering, "Don't go. You hear me? Not yet. We're not done." By morning, the fever broke, and the beeping stabilized again, a little louder this time, a little stronger. Hope rising. The results came back in a sealed envelope, but the look on the doctor's face said everything. She didn't open it right away. She sat down first. That's how Michael knew it was bad. Or worse than bad, something off the script. She slid the envelope across the table like it was radioactive. "Mr. Jordan," she began, voice carefully neutral. "We ran a full panel to confirm eligibility for the next phase of treatment, but there's a discrepancy." Michael stared at her. "What kind of discrepancy?" She opened the envelope, pulled out the sheet. "According to this, the DNA on file doesn't match the child's, not even close. His blood type, even his basic identifiers, they're not consistent with the records we've had on Benny Walker." Michael felt the chair stiffen beneath him. "That has to be a mistake." She shook her head. "We double-checked. Benny Walker passed away 6 months ago in Phoenix. Acute myeloid leukemia. There's a certificate, a funeral, everything." Michael leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Then who the hell have I been sitting next to for the last 2 weeks?" The doctor hesitated. "We don't know. Whoever he is, he came in under Benny's name. No ID, no family listed. We assumed his chart was accurate. It wasn't." Michael stood. The walls pressed in. The photo of Benny, the fake Benny making that fadeaway, hovered in his mind like a ghost mid-jump. "Where is he?" "Still in the recovery room. We haven't told him." Michael walked out before she finished her sentence. He knew the route. 4th floor, back hallway. The private room with the yellow stars on the glass. He pushed open the door without knocking. The boy was awake, sitting up, pale, alive, a fighter. He didn't look surprised to see Michael, just tired. Michael didn't speak right away, just stood there. "They told you," the boy said quietly. Michael nodded once. "I'm not Benny," he said. "I figured." A long silence stretched between them, thick with air that didn't move. Then the boy whispered, "I didn't lie to meet you. I lied to escape him." Michael pulled a chair over, sat down slow. "Him who?" The boy's voice cracked. "The man who said he was my foster dad. The one who locked me in a shed when I was sick. Who said kids like me cost too much to live." Michael didn't flinch. He just nodded once, like the ground had shifted, and he was already adjusting his footing. "What's your name?" The boy stared at the wall for a long time before answering. "Eli." Michael repeated it under his breath. Let it settle in his chest. "Okay, Eli. So, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna keep fighting. I'm gonna find out who failed you. And we're both gonna make damn sure no one else ever has to lie just to stay alive." Eli blinked once, then again, and then he cried. The file landed on the table with a dull slap. Thick, heavy, redacted in places, but not enough. Michael didn't flinch. He read faster than the social worker could explain. Foster placements. Withdrawn complaints. Photos. One showed Eli with a black eye and a stitched lip. Another, worse, his ribs, outlined beneath a bruised chest like a skeleton gasping for breath. No one had intervened. No one had cared. The system called it non-emergent. Michael called it something else. "He ran 3 times, the social worker said, voice tight with guilt. "Twice we brought him back. The 3rd time, he disappeared. Until now." Michael didn't look up. "And the man? Still licensed? Still housing 2 other kids?" Michael set the file down like it was a bomb. "Then we shut him down. We can't. Not unless Eli speaks. Not unless he's willing to testify." Michael stood. "He will." The room quieted. "You don't know that," she said. "I know he doesn't run anymore," Michael said, voice low, steady. "I'm here now." That night, he sat with Eli again. No hospital lights this time. just the soft glow of a desk lamp and the hum of the oxygen machine. Eli looked stronger, not by much, but enough to sit upright, to meet Michael's eyes without flinching. "Who told you?" he asked. "The file did." Eli nodded, quiet, resigned. "You're not mad?" he asked after a moment. "I'm mad," Michael said, "but not at you." Eli studied him. "Then at who?" Michael leaned in, elbows on his knees. "At anyone who let this happen to you. At everyone who looked the other way while you disappeared." "They said I was a liar," Eli whispered. "Said I made it up for attention." Michael's jaw clenched. "I believe you." Eli didn't cry this time, just sat still, breathing. "Do you remember the first time you saw me play?" Michael asked suddenly. Eli blinked. "Yeah, you were flying." "Was I?" "You were to me." Michael smiled faintly. "You saw something nobody else did. That's what belief looks like. That's what I'm giving you now. You want that man gone? You want those kids safe?" Eli hesitated. "I can't do it without you," Michael said. Silence. Then a whisper. "Okay." Michael reached over and held out his hand. Eli took it. No hesitation this time. The next morning, Michael called a lawyer. "I want guardianship," he said. "Whatever it takes. Start the paperwork." He didn't wait for a response. He hung up and turned to the window, watching the sun rise over the city, like it meant something again. Eli wasn't going back. Not to the foster system. Not to a courtroom alone. Not to the dark. He'd come too far. And this time, he had someone in his corner who didn't lose. Ever. The courtroom felt colder than it should have. Marble floors, heavy wood paneling, that American flag in the corner staring down like it was watching something sacred get dragged through the dirt. Michael sat beside Eli, his hand resting lightly on the boy's shoulder, more anchor than comfort. Across the aisle sat the man Eli's former foster parent. Polished suit, slick back hair, a wedding ring gleaming that didn't belong to any real love. He smiled when the cameras flashed. Eli shrank in his seat. The man's attorney stood first. His voice was smooth, theatrical. "My client has cared for over a dozen children in the last 10 years. He's received certifications, passed all inspections, has no criminal record. He believes this situation is a tragic misunderstanding one, fueled by the media's obsession with celebrity interference." Michael didn't blink, didn't look at the cameras. He just leaned slightly, whispering something into Eli's ear. The boy nodded once. Then it was their turn. Michael didn't bring theatrics. He brought truth. A retired teacher stepped up first. She spoke about Eli's sudden change in 5th grade, how he came to school with long sleeves in July, how he stopped speaking, how she reported it and no one followed up. Next came a neighbor, the one who lived behind the house. She described hearing crying through the vents, screaming, how she called CPS twice and was told it didn't meet the threshold of urgency. Then Michael stood. He didn't read from notes. He didn't need to. He told them about the first night Eli said nothing, and the second night he said everything. He talked about the fake name, the hospital wristband, the court they built in a hallway for a boy who just wanted to shoot one more time. He told them what it meant to have someone believe in you when nobody else did. He paused, looked the judge in the eye. "Your Honor, I'm not here because I want to play savior. I'm here because this kid saved himself. He fought through things I've never seen in a game, in a locker room, in my life. And I'm asking you to give him a shot he didn't ask for. A family, safety, a place to sleep where the door locks from the inside." The room was quiet. Then Eli stood. He was supposed to stay seated. He wasn't supposed to say anything. But he did. His voice was fragile, but clear. "I don't want to go back." And then his knees buckled. He collapsed right there, gasping for air, monitors in his pocket beeping like sirens. Nurses rushed in from the hallway. Michael was already on his knees. The judge didn't wait. She stood, banged the gavel once. "Temporary guardianship is granted to Mr. Jordan, effective immediately. No debate, no closing arguments. Just a ruling. And a boy, unconscious, finally in the arms of someone who wouldn't let him fall. Not ever again. Eli's eyelids fluttered open 2 hours after the courtroom collapse. His breathing was labored, lips cracked, cheeks pale with that eerie hospital blue. The machines hummed around him, oxygen, fluids, heart rate monitors, all blinking like some frantic Morse code trying to keep the boy alive. Michael hadn't moved. He was still sitting there, same chair, same posture, hands laced under his chin, watching the rise and fall of Eli's chest like a man watching his own future breathe. Eli turned his head slightly. "Did we win?" he rasped. Michael smiled, soft and tired. "We won." Eli's lips parted in a dry half-laugh. "Good, I don't remember it." "You passed out before the buzzer. Still counts." Eli's eyes searched the ceiling. "Am I yours now?" Michael didn't answer right away. He reached into his bag and pulled out the drawing. The one from the nurse, from the gala, from the beginning. The boy in the Bulls jersey. The oversized ball. The name scrawled in shaky letters. Benny. Except now it was Eli. It always had been. Michael smoothed out the creases and laid it on the bed between them. "You already kept me, kid." Eli looked at it. His hand reached for it but stopped midair. Too weak to make the full journey. Michael met him halfway, guiding it gently. He placed Eli's palm on the corner of the page, like it was an agreement signed in skin and paper. "You make it through this," Michael said, voice low but steady, "and I'll adopt you. You'll be my son." Eli's eyes glistened. "Even if I don't get better?" "You get better." "And if I don't?" Michael didn't flinch. "Then I'll still be there." Eli blinked fast, as if trying to hide the tears even from himself. "Nobody's ever wanted to keep me." "I'm not nobody," Michael said. "I'm the guy who taught you the fadeaway." Eli's body shook with a soft laugh, followed by a harder cough. Michael hit the nurse call button. When they came in, Eli grabbed his sleeve. "Wait," he said. "Don't go." "I'm not going anywhere." The nurse adjusted the oxygen, increased the drip rate. She gave Michael a soft look as she worked respect, not pity, and left without a word. The room was quiet again, the hum of life, the beat of a heart struggling to keep pace with a will stronger than bone and blood. Michael leaned back in the chair and watched Eli drift into sleep, chest still rattling but rhythm intact. Somewhere outside, the city moved on. Horns, trains, crowds, none of it mattered here. Here was a boy who'd lied to live, who'd fought without armor, who'd taken a shot with everything against him and made it. And Michael? He wasn't the legend now. He was the rebound. And Eli had just passed him the ball. The room was still. That awful, surgical kind of still. The kind that creeps under your skin and settles in your spine like a warning. Michael hadn't moved in hours. He sat by the bed, hunched forward, elbows on knees, eyes locked on the monitor like it was a scoreboard, and the game was tied in overtime. Eli hadn't spoken since yesterday. His face was pale and slack, chest rising only because the machines told it to. Every beep echoed off the walls like a ticking clock, and Michael hated that he could hear them all. The treatment had been going well, for a while. Then Eli spiked a fever that wouldn't break. His liver function crashed. Then his kidneys. The doctors called it cytokine release syndrome. Michael called it betrayal. The same medicine that was supposed to save him was now trying to finish the job the cancer started. They sedated him, inserted a tube, whispered words like comfort measures, and let him rest. Michael stayed anyway. By the second night, he stopped trying to sleep, just paced the room, told stories. About old games, locker room fights, Dennis Rodman's hair, how Scotty once stole his French fries mid-timeout. Sometimes he swore Eli's eyelid twitched, like he was listening. Sometimes he just needed to believe that. On the third night, 3:12 a.m., the line on the monitor flattened. No warning, no build-up, just a high, cold tone slicing the air in half. Michael was on his feet before the second passed. He grabbed Eli's hand cold, limp, and shouted his name. Once, twice, louder the third time. The door flew open. Nurses poured in. Code blue. chest compressions, syringes, a defibrillator pad smacked against skin. Clear. Shock. The monitor blipped. Again. Shock. Nothing. The nurse glanced at the clock. The attending doctor shook her head slightly, lips pressed in a silent no. Michael didn't move. Then, just as the lead nurse reached for the time of death form, the monitor chirped. A blip. Then another. The flat line broke. A pulse. Shallow, thin, but there. The room stopped. The doctor dropped his pen. One of the nurses covered her mouth. "He's back," someone whispered. Michael didn't speak, just let go of Eli's hand and staggered back to the chair like his knees were no longer listening to him. He sat, exhaled, eyes still locked on the screen. A pulse. Again. Again. The room cleared eventually. Slowly, carefully. Michael stayed. He reached for the ball at his feet, the same one they'd used on the court 2 weeks ago. He held it in his lap like a child might hold a Bible. Quiet, reverent. "You don't quit," he said, voice cracking for the first time in days. "Not you." Eli didn't move, but the pulse stayed, the breath stayed, and that was enough. Michael leaned back in the chair and looked at the ceiling. The comeback wasn't finished. Not yet. It started with a single blank panel, 8 feet wide, 6 feet tall, cold white, tucked between the playroom and the family waiting lounge. The nurses called it the legacy wall. At first, it was just a quiet idea from one of the pediatric staffa place where the kids could draw something, anything, that told the world who they were beyond the charts and tubes. Michael stood in front of it with Eli's 4-pole in one hand and a marker pack in the other. "You up for it?" he asked. Eli looked up from the wheelchair, still weak but breathing on his own now, eyes darker than usual. "What if I mess it up?" he asked. Michael knelt beside him. There's no wrong way to tell the truth. Eli chose red. Always red. He didn't explain why. He rolled up to the far left corner and with trembling fingers began to draw. A court. Not a hospital court. A real one. Full size. Roaring with invisible crowds. Baskets glowing like halos. And in the center, a kid with no jersey number. Just a smile. Soon the others joined. One girl, bald with a pink scarf and sass to match, drew a bakery. Giant ovens, trays of cookies, a cake shaped like a unicorn wearing a stethoscope. Another kid drew a playground, swings reaching toward the sky, a wheelchair ramp curling around like a spiral galaxy. And then there was her, Ava, quiet, small. No one knew much about her, just that she came in 2 days after Eli collapsed in court and stayed mostly in her room, staring out the window. She didn't ask for help, didn't talk during art time. But that day, something changed. She picked up a black marker, walked up to the center of the wall, and started drawing lines. Sharp ones, rigid. Michael watched as the image took shape-long benches, a tall podium, a flag, a courtroom. She wasn't guessing. She'd been in one. She drew it from memory. A nurse leaned to whisper, but Michael shook his head. Let her draw. Let her speak. When Ava was done, she stepped back and said nothing, just handed Michael the marker and walked away. Later, Michael found her in the hallway, curled up on a bench with a book that she wasn't reading. "That was brave," he said. She shrugged. "He told me I wouldn't be believed, that no one would care." Michael crouched down. "He was wrong. You know Eli?" she asked. He said the same thing. Michael nodded. "I know. That's why we're here." She looked at him, eyes full of something too old for her age. "Do you think it helps? Drawing?" "I think it helps someone," he said. "Sometimes that's all we can do. Leave a mark big enough to remind the world we were here." She didn't smile, but she didn't cry either. That night, they finished the wall. 22 drawings. 22 truths. And, in the center, Ava's courtroom, waiting for justice to catch up. They'd told him it was just a product launch. Just 30 minutes in front of cameras, a few lines about the next Jordan drop, maybe a flashbulb photo with a celebrity guest or two. But when Michael stepped up to the podium, nothing about him looked ready to sell. No brand hat, no rehearsed smile, just a black suit, open collar, and eyes that had seen too much in too little time. The room fell quiet faster than anyone expected. He didn't start with stats. Didn't start with, "I'm grateful to be here." He started with one name, Eli. A few murmurs. Cameras clicked. Michael cleared his throat, voice already tight. "You came here expecting me to talk about shoes, but I want to talk about a kid who never asked for anything except to be safe. A kid who showed up in a hospital bed under someone else's name because the system failed him." He paused. The silence pressed in. "I met Eli expecting to make his wish come true. But what I got instead was a front row seat to what survival really looks like. I watched him teach himself how to walk again after treatment dropped him flat. I watched him take a shot with trembling hands and make it. I watched him collapse in court after speaking his truth and still get back up." Someone in the back shifted. A few people whispered. Michael leaned forward slightly, elbows on the podium like he was locking in. "You want to talk legacy? I used to think it was rings, championships, highlights on repeat. But what good is legacy if it doesn't show up when it matters most?" His voice cracked. He didn't stop. "There are kids across this country fighting every single day, not just against disease, but against silence, against abuse, against the kind of hurt that doesn't leave bruises you can see." He looked up then, eyes wet but fierce. "Eli's not just a name, he's a mirror. And I didn't like what I saw when he held it up to the world." The room was still. Reporters didn't interrupt. They just watched. "So here's what we're doing. We're launching a new foundation. Not for sports, for survivors. For the kids who slipped through the cracks. For the ones who can't wait for someone else to care. And we're starting with that hospital. With that court. With those walls." Michael's jaw clenched. "If my name means anything, then let it mean something for them now." A beat passed. Then another. One by one, people rose to their feet. Not out of applause. Out of gravity. Out of guilt. Out of gratitude. The video hit 2 million views by sundown. 12 million by morning. Congress called by lunch. Michael didn't return the call. Not yet. He was busy. Eli had stood that morning 3 seconds on his feet, unsupported. And Michael had missed every second. He wouldn't miss the next one. Not for the world. The knock came just before noon. 3 slow, firm taps. Michael opened the hospital room door expecting a nurse, maybe a therapist. Instead, it was a man in his 40s, lean and jittery, dressed in an oversized flannel and scuffed boots. He held a folder in one hand and a badge in the other, not a cop's, but something colder. "Family Services." Michael didn't move. The man didn't wait. "I'm Elijah's father," he said. Just like that, like it was fact, like it carried weight. Michael stepped into the hall, closing the door behind him. "You sure about that?" The man opened the folder. Birth certificate, a photo, a test result, all of it legal, all of it real. Michael scanned it twice. "You show up now?" he asked. "After everything?" The man looked down. "I didn't know where he was. Not for years. I was locked up, then clean. Now I'm working a program, trying to get my life back." His eyes flicked up, hollow but not lying. "I want my son." Michael didn't blink. "You lost that right the moment he had to steal someone else's name to stay alive. He's my blood, and I'm the one who stayed." The hallway was silent. Just a vending machine humming and the faint beeping of a monitor through the door. "I'm not here to fight you," the man said. "But if I have to, I will. I've got a lawyer." Michael nodded slowly. "Then I'll get one too." The man left without shaking hands. Michael went straight to his phone. 1 call to his PI, 2 to his legal team. Within hours, they had everything: arrest records, parole violations, rehab stints, court documents buried under years of dust. But none of it guaranteed anything. Family law didn't work like that. Blood had weight, even when it came late. The court date was set 2 weeks. Eli didn't know yet. Michael didn't want to tell him. Not like this, but there was no hiding it now. That night, in the quiet hum of the room, Michael sat by the window while Eli dozed. the IV drip clicking like a metronome in a slow, heavy rhythm. When the boy stirred, Michael turned. "We have to talk," he said. Eli sat up slowly. "About what?" Michael hesitated, then told him. Everything. The knock, the folder, the blood test. Eli didn't cry, didn't flinch, just stared at the sheets. "So what happens now?" "There'll be a hearing," Michael said. "A judge, lawyers. They'll ask who you want to live with." Eli looked up. "And I get to pick?" "You do. Even if I'm not better?" Michael leaned forward. "Especially then." Eli was quiet a long time. Then, finally, he spoke. "He left." "I know." "You didn't." Michael shook his head. "I won't." The boy nodded. "Then I already picked." Michael stood, walked to the door, and turned off the light. "Rest up. We've got a game to win." Behind him, Eli whispered into the dark. "I'm not going back." And Michael whispered back, "Not on my watch." The sunlight came in through the blinds like it had been waiting all night to see if Eli would wake up. He did, quietly. No gasps, no machines alerting the room. Just a slow blink, a stretch of fingers, and a whisper. "I'm hungry." Michael had never heard a more beautiful sentence. He was already out of the chair before the second word left the boy's mouth. The nurse was called. Fluids were checked. Vitals steady. By the time the doctor walked in, the news was already in the air like the smell of fresh rain. His numbers had changed. For the better. White blood cell count up. Inflammation down. The chemo, the experimental mix from Zurich, the weeks of fighting through fevers and code blues had started to work. The cancer was shrinking. Slowly. Stubbornly. But shrinking. Michael just stood there and nodded, like he didn't dare breathe too loudly and wake whatever force had finally decided to lean their way. When Eli fell back asleep, this time from real exhaustion, not pain, Michael grabbed his gym bag, the one he kept under the bed like a lucky charm. He reached in to change into fresh shoes and felt something crumpled inside the left one. Paper. Folded. Small. He opened it slowly, already knowing what it was by the size and the shape. A letter. Different handwriting than the hospital forms. Scratchier. Slanted. From Eli. Michael sat down at the edge of the bed and read it once. Then again. It was short. 6 lines. No date. Just one signature. "If I don't make it, don't stop. There's more kids like me. You found one, but I bet you'll find another. And another. And they won't all know how to shoot a fadeaway. Teach them. Don't stop. Promise me that. Eli." Michael folded the paper once, then again, pressing it tight, like he could force the words deeper into his skin. Then he wept. No one else was in the room. No camera. No nurse pretending not to stare. Just him and the boy, and the sound of tears that didn't ask for permission this time. His hands covered his face, shoulders shaking, breath hitching in a way that hadn't happened since his father's funeral. This wasn't grief. Not exactly. It was weight. The kind you choose to carry. The kind that changes how you walk. When he finally stood, he slid the letter into his wallet, next to the photo of his sons. He didn't speak. Just kissed Eli's forehead, whispered something only the boy could hear, and stepped into the hallway with a new kind of silence. Not heavy, not broken, just sure. He wasn't stopping. Not now. Not ever. The courtroom was colder than Michael remembered. Not the air, just the silence, the kind that folds itself around the people inside and waits for something to break. Eli sat beside him in a pressed button-up shirt that still hung too loose on his frame. His hair was growing back, inch by inch, soft and defiant. He looked straight ahead, hands in his lap, eyes fixed on the judge, like he already understood more about justice than any kid should. The judge called the case to order. The biological father sat across the room, flanked by a lawyer who hadn't said much since they walked in. The man looked smaller now, not just thinner, but dimmed, like a bulb left on too long in an empty house. His hand shook as he opened his folder, then closed it again. When they asked him to speak, he stood but didn't move forward. He didn't read from paper, just cleared his throat and looked at Eli. "I don't deserve to be here," he said. "I missed everything. I let the world tell me I wasn't ready to be a father, and I believed it. I used every excuse: drugs, prison, pain, and Never once thought about what it cost you. Eli didn't blink. The man looked down. You deserve better than me. I'm not here to take you back. I'm here to say I'm sorry. He sat down. That was it. No performance. No fight. Just the slow collapse of a man too late to matter and brave enough to admit it. The room didn't move. Then they called Michael. He rose, walked to the front, and didn't stop at the podium. He stood beside Eli, placed one hand lightly on the boy's shoulder, and looked at the judge. I'm not Eli's blood, he began, but I know his story better than anyone alive. I've seen what he survived. I've watched him fight, cry, fall, and get back up. And I've made him a promise to never leave. He looked down at Eli, then back to the bench. That doesn't change today. Not if I can help it. The judge nodded, face unreadable. Then she asked Eli to speak. There was no objection. No one stopped her. Eli stood. The room leaned in. He's right, Eli said, voice small but steady. He missed everything. But he told the truth, and I believe him. The room held its breath. But I pick Mike. Not because he's famous. Not because he saved me. Because he stayed. A hush. A gavel. The judge looked at the boy, with something almost like warmth. You don't have to choose forever today. The door is open. But for now, you stay with Mr. Jordan. She stood. That was it. Done. Eli sat down, legs shaking. Michael reached out, took his hand, didn't let go. Outside, the crowd waited for a statement. Reporters, cameras, flashes. But inside, in the echo of a gavel and the silence after, a boy had chosen home. The ribbon was red. Eli picked the color himself. Not gold, not bluered, like the jersey he used to draw, like the blood he fought to keep clean, like the flame that refused to go out. The scissors were dull, hospital-issued, too blunt to cut through hope cleanly, but they did the job. One snip, and the crowd erupted. Patients, nurses, therapists, reporters. Michael stood behind Eli, hands on his shoulders, as the doors to Eli's court opened for the first time. It wasn't just a gym. It was a promise. A full-size court inside the hospital, floors polished to a mirror shine, lines painted in bold white, banners hanging overhead not of championships, but of names. Kids who played here. Kids who'd made it. Kids who hadn't. The first ball bounced before the applause had even faded. Eli passed it to a boy in a wheelchair, then pivoted to help a girl adjust her brace. He was coaching now. Not with drills, but with stories. Every scar on his body became a lesson. Every breath a playbook. The cancer hadn't vanished. It was still there, lurking in blood panels and shadowed scans. But it was losing. Slowly, stubbornly, painfully it was losing. And Eli was winning. Not with trophies. With time. With teammates. With mornings where he woke up hungry, not scared. Michael watched from the corner of the gym, arms crossed, sunglasses tucked in his collar. Every now and then, someone tried to thank him. He never let them finish. It was Eli, he always said. I just built the floor. Across the country, the foundation had exploded. Donations from athletes, messages from survivors, letters from parents who said they hadn't believed in anything until they saw a kid stand up in court and say, he stayed. Hospitals reached out, asking how to build their own Eli's court. Teams offered to fund entire wings. And every week, Michael returned to the same chair by the same bed, because progress doesn't move in straight lines. Some days, Eli couldn't walk. Some days, he couldn't eat. But he showed up, every time, and that was enough. On one quiet afternoon, as sunlight poured through the high gym windows, Eli sat on the edge of the court, legs dangling off the edge of a padded bench. He looked over at Michael, who was pretending not to watch. You think I'll ever play in the NBA? He asked. Michael walked over, sat beside him. You already made the most important shot of your life. Eli smiled. Still want to try out? Michael nodded. Then you better stretch. They sat there in silence for a while, just two kids from different worlds who had met in a hallway and decided not to let go. The scoreboard above them wasn't lit. There was no time running out, no fans waiting for buzzer beaters. But in that moment, with the court beneath them and the world finally catching its breath, it was clear. They'd already won. The court was quiet except for the bounce. One ball, steady rhythm, echoing off the walls of the gym like a heartbeat. Michael leaned against the wall, arms folded, watching Eli dribble. The kid had filled out. Still lean, still fragile, in ways the scans would never stop measuring, but different, taller, stronger, alive. The scar on his neck peeked from under the collar of his practice jersey. His breath was even, his stance low, focused. He wasn't just playing anymore. He was hunting the shot. Michael tossed him a look, that old look, the one that used to end playoff games and shatter cities. "You've got the last shot, kid." Eli grinned, wiped his palms on his shorts, and took 2 slow steps back behind the arc. His shoes squeaked. His shadow stretched long across the polished floor. It was the same move, the same angle, same depth. Chapter 4. All over again. Fade away. Air. Silence. Swish. Michael raised an eyebrow, tried not to smile. Again. He passed him the ball. Eli caught it midair like it was nothing, like it always belonged in his hands. This time, no warm-up, no setup. Just one quick crossover. A hesitation, then up. The shot hung in the air longer than it should have. Time didn't stop. It held its breath. Then, swish. The net snapped. Clean. Michael laughed once, just under his breath. Not loud, just proud. Eli stood at the top of the key, hands at his sides, eyes still locked on the rim, like it had something more to say. "Game," he said. Michael walked over, extended his hand. Eli didn't shake it. He bumped fists. The ball rolled to the side and settled in the corner like it knew its part was over. The gym lights flickered for a second, just enough to break the moment. Michael reached for his phone, checked the time. "Doctor's in 10, he said. "Routine scan." Eli nodded. "You coming?" "Every time." They walked off the court together, side by side. Just a kid and his father. Just a player and his teammate. Just 2 names that had found a way to mean something beyond headlines. The camera didn't follow them. It didn't need to. The frame stayed on the court. Empty now. Quiet. Then, the lights dimmed. The screen faded to black. And in that silence, the sound of one last perfect shot, played again clean, soft, unmistakable. Swish. Fade in. Eli Jordan 2012-2025, for now. Beneath it, white letters on black. Some kids beat the odds. Some redefine them.